Hey guys, what's going on? Good morning, it's Brandon. So we're gonna redo a video that we made on Facebook a while back, right after the reveal, and it's basically me explaining why we know that the C8 zr1 is not ready. That twin turbo motor is not ready. If General Motors doesn't put two low side fuel pumps in it, it's not ready. And I'm gonna explain how this is all gonna unfold and what the symptoms are gonna be that the car is gonna exhibit when it exhibits problems. But before we get into that, we're going to rewind back to the C8 Z06. And I'm going to tell you factual cases about what's happened in the C8 Z06. So first of all, with the C8 Z06, the first person to dyno it was Speed Phenom Austin. His dyno numbers still to this day are unmatched. The amount of power that very first car put down were much, much higher than all the rest afterwards. Jesse went and got his done. Plenty of other people went and got theirs done. Theirs were always lower. That's not coincidence. Because what General Motors is doing is they're doing a false advertising situation. They're advertising one thing and then they're bringing it down a notch because they don't have the fuel system to keep up with the powers that they're advertising. So let's talk about what's happened with the C8 Z06. To me personally, I've had it run lean in the cold weather, experienced detonation, and that knocks out the cats, okay? So understand something, cats by nature are restrictive of airflow. So when people remove the cats, they'd say, oh, we'll just solve the problem, remove the cats, I don't need cats anyway. I have some good friends who've removed the cats and they put on a different air box. So now the car is flowing more air than factory. Because understand something, General Motors has shut down the throttle body at wide open throttle where it's not completely open. They're not letting all the air in. They're limiting how much air comes in. That car is supposed to be over 720 horsepower, guys. It's supposed to make more horsepower than a McLaren 720. That was one of the slides of the GM marketing team originally when they were going to release the C8 Z06 was, you know, it compares like this to the Ferrari, it compares like this to the Porsche, and it has more horsepower than the 720S. Okay, so they were going to have all these different things, and they were going to show it off to everybody. Anybody who owns a C8 Z06 knows that they consume fuel really bad. Okay, they run very, very rich all the time. Well, one of the reasons why I think that happened is because what I'm about to explain happened to my friend who put on the catless pipes. They removed the cats, so they're just a straight through pipe. So they're actually thinner, you know, they're not bulky, they're thinner than the regular catalytic converter. And that being the case, they're actually farther away. There's more distance between them and the coil pack number 8. But with these catless pipes, he's actually melted coil pack number 8. You say, well, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't until you understand that the cars are running lean. See, when the cars are able to run rich, they're able to keep the exhaust system cool. Everything out, you know, downstream of the motor is able to be kept cool when they're run a little bit rich. The moment the cars start running a little bit lean, that all gets extremely hot. So hot, in fact, that his bolts that are holding on his catalytic converter, his pipe, there's no longer a cat there, it's the cat delete pipe. His bolts that are holding on the cat delete pipe are melting. Literally the grade 8 bolt that he's using is, the nut is turning into butter and basically sliding off, and it's smooth inside the nut. There's no more threads because it's getting so hot. So what's happening is coil pack 8 is going out first because it's melting from the heat, and then once coil pack 8 goes out, now you have a steady misfire, which creates immense heat, and that melts the bolts on the cat pipes, okay? So General Motors was running into this, in my opinion, back when the car had regular cats and it was making over 720 horsepower, and General Motors couldn't figure out why. It's because when you go down to VIR, you're pretty close to sea level. You're closer to sea level than at VIR, okay? Or excuse me, than Milford. Milford's where they test the cars in Yuma, out, you know, in California, Arizona, Nevada area. They test the cars out there. They're way up high. But at Milford, they're at 950 feet above sea level. So the situation here is the cars, when you take them down to low altitudes, they run more lean where the fuel system can't keep up. And it's a low side fuel pump, guys, that can't keep up. And this is the difference. I've said it a million times. I'm going to say it again. This is the difference between Corvette shops who know what they're doing, the Corvette shops who don't, who upgrade the C5, C6, C7s. We used to take Lingenfelter cars, put 2 low side fuel pumps on them, take them back to the dyno. They wouldn't experience detonation anymore. We'd retune them. We could get another extra 150, 200 horsepower out of the car, no problem. with the exact same turbos that Lingenfelter already put on the car. We used to buy twin turbo cars, soup them up, and then flip them, and all we do is fix the fuel system and retune the cars. And add more cooling if need be. If the person who we were selling it to wanted better cooling. So, this is nothing new, guys. This is something that's been going on since C5 days. General Motors engineers, they're just hoping. It's like hopium. They hope that they can defy the laws of fluid flow dynamics, okay, fluid pressure dynamics, because that's basically what's going on. And you've got a low side fuel pump that can only pump so much. So now let's fast forward to the C8 ZR1. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be experiencing one of three problems, because you can catch the problem one of three ways. The first way you can catch the problem is you can have a code P228C throw, which is what would throw on the C7 Z06s when I first found the problem running the cars down here in Florida. P2286 basically indicates that what do you call it? There's a pressure drop in the low side fuel line, which is the line that's between the low side pump and the high side pumps. There'd be a 10 psi pressure drop where it'd go from 70 down to 60. And so that's out of bounds. It's too low of a drop. Well, understand something. When that 60 psi is only feeding the high side pumps produce drastically hundreds and hundreds less psi due to that 10 psi pressure swing. Okay, I'm talking like 500 psi swing. So that the end result is you end up running lean. And that's what knocks out the spark plugs and knocks out all these different things. We're going to mention Justin, a horsepower obsessed, here in a second, because, you know, I've told him long ago that I didn't mind if he copied my stuff, but now that he's went on the offense and said that I'm basically crazy, that I don't know what I'm talking about, and he's still copying my stuff. His last ZR1 episode, guys, he copied my stuff. There's a big Facebook post about the blue Z06 with the front pass-through. I had the blue Z06 logos on the side, the front pass-through. Not one person on that Facebook post mentioned about the lugs being different. I was the only person who mentioned about the lugs being different front to back. Justin, of course, threw that in one of his episodes, and I know that he didn't think it up on his own because he didn't get to the correct point. And I'm not going to explain what he did wrong yet, okay? He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's getting obnoxious how clueless the guy is, okay? So the thing is, I don't mind if he copies my stuff. It'd be nice if he had the class to give me some credit. Hey, Vet Titans pointed this out. He doesn't have the class to do that. He's still trying to prove that he's my superior, and he's still getting stuff wrong. But the point is this, and I'll get more into that in another episode because that's its own episode. But the point is this, back to the C8 ZR1, General Motors is advertising 1,064 horsepower. They're not going to be able to do that. The car is going to be delayed again and again and again because it's either going to throw P228C like the first C7 Z06s did. Then General Motors disabled that code, that way the car wouldn't go into limp mode and protect itself. Then the cars would simply just experience detonation because now they're running lean, okay? So that would put the car into limp mode. Well, then General Motors disabled that. So that's like an 0300 code. They disabled that, like a P0300. That gets disabled. Next, then it would actually knock out the catalytic converters because they would let the detonation happen and it would knock out the cats. So that's what we ended up lemon lawing multiple C7 Z06s for, was the cats kept getting destroyed because General Motors disabled all the safety programs to prevent the engine from experiencing detonation, because they were trying to outsmart me from being able to lemon law the cars, which clearly had a problem. Taj admitted to me at the NASA reveal of the C8 Stingray convertible. Taj admitted to me face to face. We talked for over half an hour, 45 minutes. He admitted to me that General Motors was never going to put two low side pumps in the C7 Z06, and that it was less expensive for them just to keep lemoning me out of them and putting me into a new one. I then said, okay, that's fine, but make sure you guys fix it for the C8 Z06. Fast forward to the C8 Z06, they didn't fix it. The car ran late. Nobody could figure out why they were blowing up motors. I knew the whole time why they were blowing up motors. When you get around 700 horsepower, you run out of fuel unless you have port injection. That'll get you a little further. Port injection, the reason why it gets you a little further is because it makes the job of the low side pump and the high side pumps easier to flow in extra fuel into the chamber, because the high side pumps, without port injection, they have to pump to the little tiny orifices of the direct injectors. It's a huge bottleneck, and it has to be by nature because the direct injectors have to vaporize the fuel and idle. So if you have tiny little holes to vaporize the fuel at idle, well, then at wide open throttle, you have a definite bottleneck. So the port injection's like a garden hose. It just lets the fuel in big quantities. So that's what they've done on the C8 zr1. They put port injection on the car. We knew that they were going to do this, or we knew that they were going to do, what do you call it, double direct injectors, because the car has the Bosch computer system. Justin and all of his contacts, they're plagiarizing my information. These guys had no clue that the car had an extra set of computers in it. That's top secret through General Motors. Nobody knows that. I was the first one to bring that to the world, and I've been the only one to bring that to the world about the Bosch computers being on the C8 Z06, and that's why Trifecta and all these guys can't tune it, is because it has an extra computer. No one else has told that publicly. Justin is copying all my information. He's plagiarizing my information. He's not giving me credit, and he attacked me for copyright. You see? So this is the irony, guys. He's the copycat. I put up a video of him speaking foolish words, and he attacked me for, because it's cut and dry then, because he can go to YouTube and cry like a little baby and say, oh, he's copying my stuff. When meanwhile, Justin originally gave me permission to use anything from Chevrolet, to use anything from him, to use anything from any of these guys on my videos. He's like, oh, you're welcome to use my stuff anytime you want. It's because he didn't think I was going to turn around and start using it in a negative context and show that he has no clue what he's talking about. And this actually ties into the subject that he and I had our falling out on. What really bothered me about Justin wasn't the ZR1 topic. It was the C8 ZR1 topic. Okay, the C8 ZR1 Grand Sport topic. When I kept saying that's a Grand Sport, there's no way they're going to be releasing the C8 ZR1 yet, because there's too many issues that they're having with the car. It can't be a 2025. Okay, it's got to be a 2026 or later. What General Motors might do to try to prove me wrong is they might let the first 300 out, let people dyno those, let only VIPs get their hands on those, and then they'll over-the-air change the cars. And it's very important to understand that when I say over-the-air change, I'm not saying over-the-air update. Over-the-air update is like when you update Windows. It's a big deal. Over-the-air change is when you update Adobe or Photoshop or Internet Explorer or whatever it is, Chrome. Those are like, General Motors can do those little updates without you even knowing it. Like General Motors can change this car as I'm driving it right now. They can flip a switch and change stuff without you knowing it, without doing an over-the-air update. The over-the-air update is to refresh basically Windows, if that makes sense. Like it's a big change. So what General Motors can do is they can change the throttle body position at wide open throttle in the blink of an eye on all the cars across the country, just by pushing a button. Like literally, I don't think you guys understand that. So what General Motors did with Speed Phenom was they said, okay, Speed Phenom's getting one of the first cars. We're gonna make sure that his car makes max power. He's gonna go dyno the car, okay, great. And they can do it across all the cars. They can make all the cars make big power for the first, couple months, and then boom, bring it back down to where once Speed Phenom goes to the dyno, okay, now we bring it back down. So now there's a video of Speed Phenom or whoever has the first car getting huge dyno numbers, and then all the other cars coincidentally get much less numbers later. General Motors is doing this shit on purpose. It's not coincidence, guys. So once you understand that, they're going to probably do the same thing with the ZR1. The only way they're going to release the ZR1 is if they release 300, 350, somewhere in there, just a handful. Let those people go to dynos, let people document the power, then they're going to turn them all down. They cannot make 1,064 horsepower reliably in all environments with only one low side pump. Even though they have port injection, the port injection is maxed out by the time you get up anywhere close to those power levels. And so cold days at sea level, even when GM turns the power back down, we're still going to be able to run the car lean. Even if GM turns the power back down to 850 horsepower, we're still going to be able to run the car lean, guys. And when I say this, it's going to result in the same thing that's going on with the gentleman who has the C8 Z06, where he's melting his bolts and his cats, okay? And he's getting the cat so hot, the cat pipe so hot, that it's melting coil pack number 8, okay? So General Motors probably has some heat shielding for coil pack number 8 on the C8 ZR1. That's my first clue that I'm telling the truth, that you guys are going to see. That they're experiencing these problems. But the second thing is General Motors is also breaking carrier gears on the transmission. You say, well, they can just put in a bigger one. You don't understand. It's the geometry of the gear, because it's a big hollow round gear. It's not strong, it wants to break in the outward dimension. Okay, it's not like you're packing it. It's not the planetary gears that are under force that are having the problem. It's the carrier gear, which is on the outside, which is being pushed outward, that ends up breaking. It just breaks in half, basically, okay? So all this information, carrier gears, zr1's running lean, C8 Z06 is running lean, pipes being melted, all these different things, it came from me, guys. When Justin and these guys plagiarize this stuff, they're plagiarizing it. They're not giving credit where they're getting their information. And the irony is, Justin doesn't want to talk about this topic about the fuel, because he already drew a hard line in the sand when his C7 zr1 was running lean in the exact environment that I said it would when it gets super cold outside. So he blamed it on a faulty spark plug, and what he's too dense to understand is what caused the spark plug to go bad. No, brother, there's a TSB from General Motors that says spark plugs go bad. Yeah, that's because General Motors doesn't want to admit that their fuel system is inadequate, so it's a magic trick. They point everybody over here. Oh, it's the spark plugs just magically fucking break for no fucking reason. Oh, we don't know why it happens. I know why it happens, because the cars experience detonation, okay? So anyway, that's it, guys. That's what the whole feud was about. And instead of Justin saying, hey, Brandon brings a lot of information to the vet community, I know he's rough around the edges, it's not about that, guys. It's about he wants to prove that he's my superior. And he found a topic where somebody who didn't know as much as I did told him something different than me, and he ran with it. He did it twice, clearly documented. He did it with the fuel issue on a C7 ZR1, and he did it again before that. He did it when his dealer contact told him there's an LT2 with 2 little helpers. He and I had extensive conversations about the engines and the motors coming and blah, 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 blah. The flat plane crank, cross plane crank, twin turbo motors that are coming. He and I had extensive conversations about this stuff, guys. And he, instead of stick with that, instead of believe that Conti and I have inside sources, which we do, instead of believe that Conti and I know what we're talking about, that the LT7 is going to be a twin turbo 5.5 liter flat plane crank, okay, they don't have to reduce it down to 4.7. I was the one who started that conversation too, that they got to reduce it down to 4.7. But once I realized that the engine, anyway, the point is, I was saying early on, it's probably going to be a 5.5 somewhere in there, flat plane crank twin turbo on the LT7 engine, the motor that goes in the ZR1. Now, with all that said, you say, okay, Brandon, well, we've seen the motor, and you're saying that there's a Grand Sport coming. What I'm saying is, General Motors is not ready yet with that motor and that car. They've got to release something else in the meantime, and it's going to be the Grand Sport. And that's why I'm still so adamant that a Grand Sport's coming. That's one of the many reasons why I'm still adamant that a Grand Sport's coming. It's because they can't produce a ZR